Part 2, the first Bitcoin halving in 2012. All right, so let's fast forward. By this time, Bitcoin had been around for years, but it was still kind of weird. It was like this underground thing that most people didn't understand. And when people heard about Bitcoin, they were like, what the hell is that? Is it a tiny bit of a coin? Is it a drill bit? Is it a piece of a metal? It was confusing. My father was a mechanic and pretty damn good one, and he would ask for a bit. It would mean a drill bit. What bit do you want, Dad? Do you want a Phillips bit? Do you want a flathead? Do you need a Torx? Do we need a drill bit? What bit do we need? So it was in the nomenclature just confusing to me, at least in the first couple of years, for many years. And that's what it was. It was something that I saw online of this digital or metal thing that was misleading. At least that's what I thought. A virtual coin that you could somehow see on your computer. Honestly, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. But back then, Bitcoin wasn't just for computer nerds or criminals, but the general public. They didn't take it serious at all. It wasn't on anyone's radar for any real money, but these small circles of enthusiasts, it was starting to gain traction. They saw Bitcoin as something revolutionary, something that could break the chains of traditional financial systems. But outside these circles, most people hadn't heard of Bitcoin or thought it was some kind of joke. Adoption was painfully slow. Only a tiny handful of businesses accepted Bitcoin. And if you had Bitcoin back then, it was probably just out of curiosity, something you were playing around with, not something you saw as value. But that was about to change. Now, behind the scenes, the people who were into Bitcoin were working their asses off just to get this off the ground. By this time, and this is one of the most important reasons, in my opinion, that Bitcoin even exists today. One of the major factors that it managed to survive is by this time, Satoshi Nakamoto, the mysterious creator of Bitcoin, had stepped back, leaving the project in the hands of the early adopters. He walked away forever. So far, I mean, we sometimes say he's going to come back, but we don't know. Or even if he's alive. Anyhow, this is the genius part. Satoshi basically handed it over to the world. Like a gift from above, an angel just came down and said, here you go, you're going to need this. It's crazy when you really think about it. People don't give enough credit to how special and important that move was. But to keep Bitcoin running smoothly, the community had to build up trust into the system. And the biggest challenge, getting people to see Bitcoin, was more than just some internet novelty. They had constantly explained that Bitcoin wasn't just digital funny money. It was something that could change the world. But back then, explaining Bitcoin was like trying to convince someone that email was better than snail mail. And most folks, they were not having. Then, just a few days after Thanksgiving in 2012, something big happened in the world of Bitcoin. November 28th of 2012 marked as the first Bitcoin halving. Now, that might sound like a weird term, but here's the deal. The way Bitcoin works is that people who help run the system on their computers or their mining systems, it is a computer, are called miners. And they earn Bitcoins as a reward for processing the transaction and securing the network. They are lending out their computers to that chain to help out in the system, and they get a reward. That's pretty genius. But every 4 years, that reward, that I'm going to call it a tip. That tip or that payment they get every 4 years, it reduces in how much you get back by half, reducing the number of Bitcoins that are created. After the first halving, the reward dropped from 50 Bitcoins per block to 25 Bitcoins per block. And guess what happened? The value of Bitcoin started to rise. Why? Because there were fewer Bitcoins coming out into the market, making the ones that already existed, they were more valuable. And it was like finding out if you're into Pokemon, and my cousin's into Pokemon, so I'm kind of talking to his world. It's like finding out your Pokemon card collection just suddenly doubled in value because there are less of them out in the world. Suddenly people started to pay attention. And this was the moment that Bitcoin began to move from the fringes to something more mainstream. The first halving was proof that Bitcoin was here to stay and that it had the potential to be something big. So to wrap it up, the first halving was a turning point, a moment where Bitcoin started to get a little more respect. Even if most people didn't fully understand it, from here things started to get more interesting. With more people getting involved, the price of Bitcoin began to climb. Next, I'm going to talk about the next halving in 2016 and a few things that happened in between there. That's where Bitcoin's journey starts to become digital gold and it really takes off. And as always, remember, none of what I'm telling you is financial advice. I'm just sharing a story on how I saw it, and maybe some of this will make a little sense out of the crazy world of crypto that I'm still trying to understand myself. So let me keep going. This has been Big Lou's Tech Talk. Thanks for listening. Catch you on the next one. Peace.